And that brings me to the procedural displacement mapping ways that you can use displacement mapping to do design iterations or alterations quickly compared to how long it would take to actually model it. So here I have this speaker, and we have this speaker grill, and it looks quite nice. But when we zoom in close, we start to see that it's actually paper thin. We can see like the holes through each other, and we could make it look a bit better by using displacement map. So if I right click this texture and go to edit material graph, we can see that it's quite a basic setup. We have an anisotropic material, and we have this mesh texture cylindrical mapped on this piece and working as the bump map and opacity map. So if I take these two away, you'll see that it's a fully enclosed cylinder. So we can use this map for displacement as well. So I right click, go to geometry and select displace and add that to the geometry input. And I'll take this map and add to the displace. So, oops, in my settings here, I will go with -0.5. So let me take a look at the map here. What we want is these circles. I want those to go inwards. So what we control the height of is the white areas, and the black stays put. So I want to invert this map before displacing it. So let me right click this connection, go to utilities and select color inward. And if I hit C on the keyboard for that one, we can now see that we have this. So black will stay put and white will be displaced, and I want to displace it inwards. And that is why I go with -0.5. And let me change the resolution like that, 0.01. I think that should be good. And let me try and execute this. So I think all the holes are a bit heavy to process, but it will eventually get there. And when you work with displacement mapping, the setup time or calculation time might take a while, but once it's done, it works perfectly smooth. So it's only in this calculation time you have to wait for it. So I think this looks quite nice, but we can't see the fabric mesh that we have beneath. So this model have this mesh, and then we have another piece of geometry with this fabric material underneath. So just as before, I can enable this opacity map, enable this as an opacity map again, and we can see the fabric which underneath, but we see that the transition is a bit unclear. Let me activate my rendering region like that. And instead of using this texture, the same mesh texture, to act as an opacity map, I can create a duplicate of it like that and drag to the opacity, and then make sure to unsync it. So the changes I do now won't act down here as well. And then I can go down to the fall off, take that down to 0 to make this completely sharp transition, and then also scale the shape diameter down so we get the sides in our holes to show, and it only cuts out the whole of this material like that. So I'm fully aware at the moment that this is a pretty rough looking displacement map or displaced geometry, but what I would do would work with the fall off and add some more triangles to make this look more smooth. But for the sake of time, I will stay with this for now. So if you don't have the extra piece of geometry for the cloth underneath this anisotropic material, what you could do instead would be to create everything inside one material. So if I go to my fabric material here, I open up the graph for that and grab these 3 pieces and hit Control C to copy them, and then go back to the graph for my mesh material, and then right click and select paste like that, and add this as a label. Oops, like that. So now we have both materials inside the same material, so to speak. So instead of using this mesh as the opacity for the anisotropic material, Let me delete this. I can use it as the opacity for my fabric material. And this is the exact opposite of what we need. So I will right click, go to utilities and select color invert on this connection here. So this will give me the exact thing I'm looking for. We have this displaced mesh with the fabric underneath in just one texture. And once we zoom out a bit, we also don't see too much of these rough edges, and it starts to look really good. And we see the depth of this material, and you can adjust the depth of this or the thickness of this material, and the fabric will follow. And you can go in and change the shape of your procedural texture. So change the shape to anything you want to, and change the size and spacing and everything, and it should all follow. You probably have to update it here in this mesh as well, but otherwise it's really quick to do some different design alterations.